Okay, we are recording if you want to get going.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Um, so happy to have you with us. And on this first webinar of the year, it's back to school time. I'm starting to really feel it around Boise anyway. So happy to have you join us for our first webinar. And we have a lot to go through today, lots of information that you can see. Our agenda is pretty full. I'm not going to read through the agenda, but just basically, I've got some new staff to introduce. We've got fiscal, special ed manual, some updates on some other resources for you to provide some additional TA and support, as well as some updates on some work that we're doing around accommodations. So we'll get started and dive right into our content. So I have to say, I'm very, very happy that we have new hires. We've been able to fill all but one of our positions. We still have our early childhood position open. So if any of you know of folks or would like to apply yourselves, it's open right now. But I welcome Sterling Fitch as our support and monitoring coordinator. Many of you know Sterling. He comes from the Weiser School District. He was a school psych in the district, and we're super happy to have him with us. He started just a couple weeks ago, so brand new and getting to know the department. Next slide. Katrina Rodenbaugh is joining us as our charter schools and Section 504 coordinator. We were able to elevate that specialist position to a coordinator position to really support our charter schools and provide that extra support around Section 504 and really support you all in your work with both of those. Katrina will also be working, she and Sterling will be working together on the support and monitoring. And Katrina will take the responsibility more for the charter schools, and Sterling will be working with our traditional LEAs more. But again, that partnership between the two, I think, is really going to be helpful. And Andrew Konopaki is our new financial specialist principal. He was in school finance in the department earlier and decided he wanted to take on a new challenge and come and join us in special education. So you'll hear from all three of those, Katrina and Sterling, not today so much, but Andrew will be speaking in just a little bit about some of the fiscal things to share with you all. Okay, so I just wanted to update you. We have decided this year to partner in the federal programs ESEA and IDEA Directors Conference. It also includes our assessment team will be providing a lot of insight and support around the assessment, statewide assessments. So you'll see sessions in that too. I wanted to share that information with you. It's September 30th and October 1st. It's going to be at the NAM Pacific Center, and the link is available to begin registering. It's open, and some of you may have received that through other federal programs, things that you're involved in. That's one of the reasons that we wanted to continue to support this work in this conference is because we know that several of you wear multiple hats in our districts. And so wanted to be able to provide some information to you at the same time on all of the different ways that you support your LEAs. There'll be things from the IDEA side regarding child count and data collection. We'll have information on secondary transition and indicator 13, as well as additional pieces on dual enrollment and some of our other MTS or Idaho Tier System of Support work that we're doing as well too. So lots of things IDA related as well. I'm going to turn it over to Andrew to provide some information. And I believe Sherry will be joining him as well for a couple pieces of information.
Thank you, Jackie. Okay, so to start off, this is a quick slide for the SPED directors that have been around for a bit. This may be more review for you. For the newer SPED directors, hopefully this will help you maybe understand a little bit and translate the finance speak that you'll be discussing with your business managers. So when we talk about special education expenditures from a financial perspective, we code it into four different categories. We call these function codes, and the way we break it down is going to be our school age instruction, our preschool instruction, our special education support services, and our Medicaid match. For the school age and preschool instruction, these are going to be primarily categorized as your classroom teachers, aides, supplies, and equipment involved in the direct instruction of those SPED students. So think of the stuff that's in the classroom and then the appropriate age groups of, for preschool, 3 to 5, and then everybody between 3 to 21 for school age. For the support services, this is much broader and usually a catch-all for everything else. So the non-instructional personnel activities and services and the staff members who work with the SPED program. So this is going to be examples of your SPED directors, consulting teachers, psychologists, SLPs, PTs, OTs, and I'm sure there's plenty more as well. Now, if your SPED director can directly is involved in the classroom and is doing the teaching and things like that, there's going to be some flexibility into which category these fall directly into. But these are kind of general ideas of what we kind of expect. Some categories of expenses that we've seen that do not qualify or should not be placed in these are, for instance, social workers, school nurses, and Medicaid billers or clerks. When we discuss, for instance, social workers or school nurses, we're talking about the more gen ed, broader folks on staff. If you have a nurse, a one-to-one nurse for a SPED student, or social worker who's solely dedicated of working with special education students, those will change that. But broadly speaking, we don't expect to see those in the eligible special education expenditures. So hopefully, that gives some examples and understanding of those categories. The last one we had is Medicaid match. This is a new function code, a new category we're tracking expenses under for this year. And a couple main things to kind of look out for with this one and to help with your business managers and how things are being funded is that these must be paid out of local and state funds. The positive of that is that this will count towards your maintenance of effort that you need to qualify for your IDEA funds. And on that same note, IDEA funds cannot be used towards Medicaid match. As a quick example, if we walk through, a hypothetical occupational therapist that you contracted with your school, suppose that, over the year it was a $60,000 in cost towards this occupational therapist. Now, you pay your Medicaid match, which is approximately 33%, and this is on top of what your expense is. So in this case, we're looking at about 20,000 towards the Medicaid match on top of your already 60,000. And then what Medicaid pays and reimburses will be, fluctuate based off of the tables and everything else. But in this case, if, hypothetically they paid about 50,000 back, to the right, you see a quick little graphic of kind of how this would break down. And the end, you would still be paying about $30,000, but that would be better than the 60,000 up front. And then the way we would want this coded is that the original cost for the occupational therapist would be that 616 under the support services, and then that amount that you paid for the reimbursement towards Medicaid match would be the 617. So hopefully that kind of breaks down and makes it a little more clear of what we're talking about with those. Next slide, please. Next, we're going to talk real quick about the new Idaho High Needs Fund. This was passed last year with Senate Bill 1288. When you have a copy of these slides, if you're looking to look at the exact language of this bill, you can click on the hyperlink there. What it does is that it allows reimbursement for high needs students. For this upcoming school year and fiscal year, that pot of money in allocation is $5 million. And that will be broken out for 60% towards non-rural schools and 40% towards rural schools. And then this kicks in after the first 30,000 that the school pays. After that 30,000, you'll get 100% reimbursement up to the $80,000 limit. After 80,000, it gets reduced to 80% of cost, and then the maximum reimbursement per student is capped at $100,000. Now, if that $5 million, if all the different submissions gets the reimbursement costs beyond that $5 million pot, all of these will be distributed on a pro rata basis, so reduced equally to meet that $5 million. The way we're going to work this from a fiscal perspective is that we are targeting sending out a spreadsheet tracker next month. And then hopefully by this winter, having an IC-based application that you can be able to upload and track all of this information in. We'll create a webinar as well and go over all this material in much more depth as to how to track it and what material and information will need to be in those applications and submissions when we release that spreadsheet, hopefully again next month. What we do want to really impress upon people as well is to try to submit as many eligible students as possible towards this program. This is a new program, and right now the allocation is $5 million. But if we can show there's a high demand and need for these funds for those high cost students beyond that $30,000 initial limit, then we can hopefully work with the legislature on expanding this program in future years. Slide, please. Another question that initially people may have is how should you be paying for staffing towards these funds? Ideally, you're going to be using non-IDEA funding to pay towards this. And as you'll see in this, the slide after this is going to be a quick example of how this kind of math breaks down towards what is eligible for reimbursement. But Medicaid revenues and other different costs that will reduce the amount that you'll be able to be reimbursed. Some of the eligible costs you see here on the right is a quick list of some initial things to keep a track of or start looking into towards your students that you believe are high needs. And so you can start pulling those together for your applications. Next slide, please. And this is that calculation that I was referencing. You'll see at the top is, the first student is a very high cost student. The gross annual would be about $200,000. As we mentioned, that the school would need to commit effectively $30,000 before they become eligible. And if Medicaid reimburses any part of the cost, then that amount would be reduced from the amount reimbursable. So in this case, if it's $200,000, it would be reduced by the $30,000 that the school has to pay initially and the $25,000 that Medicaid reimbursed, which would leave you with $145,000 of amount being claimed for reimbursement. We mentioned that amount above $30,000 and up to $80,000 will be fully reimbursed at 100%, and the amount above $80,000 will be reduced to 80%, not to exceed $100,000 per student. So this is an extreme kind of example, but you can see that this would be how the math would work out to where a student would hit that $100,000 cap. You see the second item or the second example is another high cost student that didn't have Medicaid reimbursement. So we want people to be aware and keep track of some of those students where Medicaid doesn't kick in. And so even though maybe their annual costs are a little bit lower than normal, they would still be eligible due to the fact that Medicaid isn't kicking in. So you can kind of look at some of these numbers and how this all plays out and what you could expect for reimbursement. But this hopefully provides a little bit of context to the narrative of what that state bill in the previous slide was covering. So that's what one last thing, I don't have a slide for this, but this was just kind of coming up over this last day. There's this year a supplemental grant for IDEA. I just sent out an email to all the SPED directors and business managers before this webinar. But what we're learning right now is that the supplemental portion of that grant, we will need to wait until the Idaho legislature approves it for appropriation before we will be able to release those funds into the GRA for you guys to access. So hopefully that email will explain some of that. We're working through this and trying to get the information to you guys in a timely fashion. But right now, your normal annual allocations for IDEA are not being impacted by this, but we're working through some of these nuances with these new supplemental funds. So that's all I have for today, and I'll turn it over to Sherry.
All right. I'm hoping now that Andrew, my slide was up while Andrew was talking, that you've all read it and I don't even have to go over it. I'm just teasing. Last week, I sent out a grant balance notification to every business director and SPED director, just reviewing the balances in your IDA grants as well as the balances in the mini grants. And you'll probably be seeing these more frequently because as we continue using the mini grants, it's really important that we can turn those funds around quickly, because any funds that go unused, then they are made available potentially for other mini grant opportunities. So one of the first ones, that data drill down, PD and training, all those, obviously the training's over. The expense was supposed to be incurred or obligated by June 30th. So if you could hurry up and get those expenses submitted, that'd be great. On that note, you'll see that we're going to start having smaller windows of time between the incur, obligate, and the submit expenses by date, just so that, again, the window, we can move funds around faster and quicker, and have more funds available for other things. So then there's a couple coming up that right now have an incur obligate date by June or September 30th, which is the early childhood play summer training, and then the blue jeans. Obviously, those are both over as well. So I'm hoping I get really good response to the grant balance notifications, so that we can, again, liquidate whatever funds were unused and push them out there towards something else. Again, if you ever have any questions, you feel free to call me, because I know sometimes what happens when too much time has gone by since the mini grant of that activity occurred, then people can't remember what's covered, what's not covered, because the GAN you receive from the GRA isn't descriptive as far as those details. And so then that requires us to send separate emails reviewing that information. So anyway, the biggest thing is just submitting your reimbursement requests, as soon as possible after the event is over. Just helps keep things moving along. And because you do not have to wait until the submit expense dates. Just a little reminder, making sure that you submit reimbursement requests on a regular basis. I've kind of seen recently they're just a mass amount of requests coming in, which is fine. It keeps me gainfully employed. But for your sake, I'd like to see the money flowing a little more smoothly. And then last, we are working on the final numbers to offer mini grants for the ITBS and Beacon training. That's a whole variety of you just went through. Hopefully I can have that in the GRA for you this week. So fingers crossed that I'll work smoothly. And on that note, if you guys have any ideas or suggestions that would be of benefit or value to you for mini grants, please reach out to Jackie and let us know. Because I was talking to somebody earlier, they had a great idea, suggestion. And again, we want these to be of value to you. And we're going to try to plan more in advance to have the funds available, or at least what the funding may look like. And then just, like I said, keep them rolling over faster, not just having monies sitting out there accomplishing nothing. So anyway, that is all I had. I know I talked fast, but hopefully it all made sense. And if it didn't, feel free to email or call me. Thanks.
Thanks, Sherry. You don't get to hear from Sherry very often, but we thought it was timely, and we really want to get the money out to you all. So I just want to go over a little bit with a special education manual, and you can go on to the next slide, Lily. Thanks. So we do have it on the website, and I appreciate your patience over the summer with getting that. The requirements around the accessibility was a little bit more than we're used to. So there were some pieces that happened as we were trying to do that. It's available on our website and two places, both on the special education page at the front of it, as well as in the tab for the special education manual. So it's in a couple places you'll see. Procedural safeguards notice is available as well. And it is available in 12 frequently used languages in Idaho. So you can use those as you need to. And then the changes guide that we have available, we are updating that so that it's a little more robust and has a little bit more guidance in that. And so that will be posted in the next week for you to be able to look at and reference as you need to. Okay, next slide. So wanted to just update you and remind you about the initial eligibility timeline change. And the initial consent for assessment received on or after July 1st is due date. That means that you're into the 45 school days. So any consent for assessment for initial eligibility that starts July 1, you receive July 1 or after that, that is our new rule with the 45 school days. And SESTA did a really great job updating the guidance document, and you can find that on the ITC website. That's really helpful to kind of walk through those pieces as well too, to make sure you're addressing the different sections. Next slide. And so the previous 60-day timeline, you may still have a few students that you might have started before June 30th, and because of summer break or other reasons, you haven't completed their eligibility. If that's the case, then you'll operate under the 60-day timeline that will apply for any of those initial consents that were received June 30th or earlier. And then you'll use the exception rule with 60 days plus the exception rule when school isn't in session for 5 or more consecutive school days. So that's the piece on the eligibility. I just put together a little quick to-do list just as a reminder, things that you might want to think about as you're coming into the new 45 school day rule. So notifying staff of the changes and adjusting initial evaluation processes you may have in place in your LEA. Message to contractors that provide evaluation and services, letting them know of that as well too. And then any communication that you have that you push out through different media and information systems you have around child find and that initial eligibility. So accessing SESTA, that initial timeline guidance is really great, as well as some of the other documents they've produced for the purpose. If you're an Ed Plan district, the calendar changes will happen in Ed Plan. And then for those non-Ed Plan districts, if you just go ahead and use your IC data as you have in the past. And we have a process in place that will be able to calculate that on our end as well too. So just a reminder of those things. Also, since we're at the beginning of school and we know we're going to have transfer students, just a reminder that when you have the new or receiving school must review an incoming student's special education record and determine the next steps that are needed to provide that uninterrupted access to FAPE. So the responsibilities for the old or the sending school, that you need to respond to those requests in a timely manner so that the receiving school can continue to provide and address those FAPE needs. Again, SESTA has a quick guide available, and you can also review the Chapter 5, Section 4 in the Special Education Manual for updates. And as always, we're happy to entertain any questions you might have as well around that. Just a quick update on our integrated monitoring work we've done this summer. We have had facilitation from our national centers, and we were able to pull together a face-to-face work group that some of you were involved in and will be involved in going forward. So that's been super helpful. I just appreciate everybody's time in that. And we'll be inviting additional folks to participate in that work in September. We're looking at staying on target in October and November and going out to the regions to lay out what our thoughts are and what our framework is becoming around that, the integrated monitoring, so that we can get your input and thoughts into it as well. And then continuing to build it out for the system building for implementation in January and February based on input we've gotten from you, as well as then in April to the next August, really building our readiness to implement, because we'll start in September 2027, initiating our cyclical monitoring, and we're thinking about how we're going to roll that out, because it'll take a bit to get everybody up to speed, and all of our cohorts, our 5 cohorts of districts that we have across the year. So just wanted to update you on that. I'll spend a little bit more time in our September webinar talking through that, so that you know what's coming ahead in the next few months too. Okay, so I think this is pretty exciting. I'm so happy because I know for years I have been getting requests to be able to provide a statewide LRP special ed connection license for folks, and we were able to do that this year. LRP worked with us a lot to get a price that we could afford and we could make available to all of you. So I know that we had representation at IASA, but if you weren't there or not able to connect, you should have received an email. All special ed directors that we have accurate information for should have received an email from LRP with 2 attachments. One is a license agreement that we sent, and we're indicating that the special ed director is the best person in the district to be the point person. So just one person needs to fill out that license agreement. Additional user form that you'll include all of the staff in your district that you want to provide the e-connections to the special ed connection with. And it goes beyond special ed. It can be any staff in your district. It can be school counselors, it can be gen ed teachers, whoever you think would benefit from having that connection. As we go through the year, you can add people as well too. So you can start out with a group and then you can always add to that list. Next slide. When LRP, once you send that signed license back in, LRP will send a welcome email to everybody that's on your list with the district or school's login that they'll use, and then with information about introductory webinars. So they'll be hosting webinars so that you can get on and learn more about it, know how to connect, and use that effectively. So just wanted to let you know that that's available and to get people signed up for that. I'm looking forward to seeing how you all like that and how we are able to use that. Next slide. Okay, I wanted to share with you, Sherry already shared a little bit of this, but I wanted to go over it just a bit. With the mini grants for the paraprofessional training and support, as Sherry mentioned, we need to have those funds expended by 9/30. And we got several questions. So you can use the money can be used for in-district training, for collaboration time spent to plan and implement the IEP for a student. One of the questions we got was around teacher time. So if you have a paraprofessional and a teacher that work together and the teacher is off contract during that time that they would be supporting or training the paraprofessional, that can be used, the dollars in the mini grant can be used for that, as well as if the teacher is providing just some collaboration time. So either the teacher or the paraprofessionals, if they're off contract, we really want to support that collaboration and the continued skill gain for our paraprofessionals. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. I'm not going to go over this again. Sherry just really went over, but the ITBS and Beacon, one thing I did want to point out was that's for the training that's either happened or going forward. And Region 1 and 2 had the in-person training canceled because of the numbers. We felt like it was more beneficial for them to attend with a larger group in Boise. And so we offered travel costs reimbursement for those in Region 1 and 2 that are traveling to Boise. I just wanted to make that clear to folks. I sent out emails to special ed directors that pertain to, but I wanted to make sure you all realize that too. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Emily, who's going to give us some SESTA updates.
Great. Thanks so much, Jackie. Welcome back, everybody. Next slide, please. These are all of the smiling faces that are on the other end of your SESTA resources. So as you are accessing our support this year, this is who you're talking to. We want you to be sure that you bookmark and share the Idaho Training Clearinghouse site, idahotc.com, both to be able to connect with your coordinator and with other people at SESTA who can help with the needs that you have in your buildings throughout the year, and access all of the resources and training that are available to you. So we have support around the special education process, behavior needs, assistive technology, a help desk to help answer questions. We can be thought partners with you when you have challenging situations. We provide support with monitoring components like the file review, and we are available both in person and virtual. So our coordinators frequently are traveling and visiting districts so that we see you in person, and we're also available via email and with virtual solutions like Zoom. You can get in touch with SESTA again through idahotc.com/SESTA. There are links there to all of these topics, including submitting questions to the help desk for a response from one of our coordinators. You can borrow a test kit from our assessment lending library, which is done at no cost to you. Shipping both ways is included to help you complete evaluations. You can sign up and subscribe to our monthly newsletter so that you always have up-to-date information about resources and training opportunities. We are in the process, along with SDE and others, of updating our SESTA coordinator and district directors list. So that's in process, but you can find your SESTA coordinator, and we are always happy to help direct you to the right person. If somehow or other you get wires crossed or we get wires crossed, we're always happy to help track down the person that you need to talk to for your specific need. And finally, what I'm going to list, there's a lot more online, but you can also borrow assistive technology items or request an AT consult for a student. So as you can see, there's really a wide variety of resources that are available to you. We are here to help make your jobs easier and your educators' jobs easier. So please do reach out. Next slide, please. Our very first training for this coming school year, or the current school year now, is essential components of the IEP. We will be in 7 locations around the state in September and October, listed there. Registration is open right now. All of the content for the Essential Components workshop has been revised and reflects the information in the current special education manual that went into effect on July 1st. So we hope that for teachers who are new to teaching, new to the state, new to being in special education, working under alternate authorization, or have taken a less traditional path to teaching in special education, we really encourage you to get those teachers signed up and arrange for coverage so that they can be out of the building for a day, because this is really valuable information. Be sure when you register yourself and any others that you might be responsible for registering for, that you provide a school email address and an email that's directly going to reach the participant. So if you're registering for 7 people, we want all those 7 people to get information about the training day so they know where to go and how to be prepared. You don't need those 7 emails. So do be sure that you include that information about how each person will be contacted. And finally, one more back to school resource I want to share is the newly updated Idaho IEP Guidance Handbook. This has been a classic on SESTA's site for a while, and it has been newly revised and expanded with information, again, reflecting the current special education manual and a lot more details about every aspect of the IEP process. I've listed just a sample here of chapter topics. And so, as you can see, everything from preparing for the meeting to handling disagreements among IEP team members, the specifics of early childhood and secondary transition IEPs, as well as overall school age IEPs. So we hope that that is helpful to you, to your special educators, and also to your general educators and administrators who are part of IEP teams. They might also appreciate knowing about this for the introduction it gives to the process that they are also a part of on those teams. With that, I will hand it back over and wish you a very great school year ahead.
Thanks, Emily. Hey, everyone. It's great to see you back at school. I just have one slide. I'm going to go fairly quick. So please email or call if you have questions after this. We have a lot of information still to go through. So just a quick update on our Pathways to Partnerships conference. We do have a new format this year. We are doing regional in-person events and some statewide virtual events. It's going to be spread out over a few months. Our first event will be on September 23rd. That will be the onboarding webinar. We will have one keynote speaker group, and then our leadership team will talk all about the new format, talk about teams and who should be registering for all of the events, and that kind of information. A little bit more about the Pathways Conference. If you haven't attended before, make sure you attend the September 23rd. Webinar, because you'll learn a lot about what we do at our conference. And that registration is open, and it doesn't close until the day before that event. It closes on September 22nd, event on the 23rd in the afternoon. Our first in-person event will be November 5th in Boise at Boise State University, and that registration is open and will close 2 weeks before the event. Our second in-person event will be up in Moscow at University of Idaho on November 12th. Again, that registration is open. And then our third regional event will be in Pocatello at Idaho State University, and that registration is open as well. Our final event, which will be an all-day virtual event with additional keynote speakers, breakout sessions, team meeting times, all of the things that we normally do in person. We will have a second day virtual, and that will be on November 19th. We do not have a registration open for that yet. We're still working with our vendor, but as soon as we get that set up, we will send that all out to you. Again, to save time, I'm not going to go into too much detail. Please call or email if you have any questions about the conference and who should be registering, and I can talk about that with all of you. Thank you. And up next is Shannon.
Thanks, Randy. Just a brief early childhood. We had a super successful and well-attended early childhood training around the state, and we're going to have implementation follow-up meetings. There will be times both for our Pacific participants and mountain participants. All you'll need to do, I will be sending also this flyer to all the emails for people that participated this summer, but I wanted to give you as directors know that we will be having these implementation meetings as a follow-up to the training. Now, next, we're going to talk just briefly about Medicaid. The school-based Medicaid team wanted to let School districts know that there is some behavioral health training that is telehealth, and they would like you to know that you can sign up. It's free. It's August 21st at 11 o'clock, and it will be put on by the University of Washington Medical School. And I'm also going to be standing in for Stacy today. She has a DLM update. She wanted to let you know as we prepare for the upcoming school year, she wants to make sure your educators are fully trained and confident in the administration of dynamic learning maps, or DLM, assessment, and she would like you to please review the available training opportunities, the key IEP requirements, and mandatory prerequisites to help guide your staff. They're offering 3 district training options to accommodate different roles and scheduling needs. Next. The regional in-person trainings are providing interactive workshops hosted across the regions in September. Again, this is to help master the educator's portal, navigation system, the setup system, and assessment delivery. The hands-on training dramatically reduces technical friction and administrative errors during the testing window. So please share the upcoming regional schedule with your staff and budget time for their attendance. Registration will be available soon through the SESTA website. Stacy wants to thank you for your leadership in prioritizing these dates and ensuring your team are fully trained and ready to support students. Thank you.
Cynthia,
Hi.
you're muted.
Yeah.
On mute. Oh, I clicked it and it just didn't take it. Now you can hear me. Just a few notes on data. Child count, of course, is going to be coming up. September 30th through October 15th is the first IC window, so it's the October submission window. This is a great time to kind of look at your SPED data, looking at the amount of students that you expect to see in that SPED data file, and also be looking at any IEPs that may be past 365 days, because those do not count in child count. Great time to take a look to see if we can clean those up. November 6th is the snapshot date. So that is the child count date, and all students must have an active IEP as of that date. The November IC window will open up between November 6th and November 20th. This is when the data actually will be uploaded into IC, and then once you submit your November IC, it pulls into the SPED data application. So then you can go over to that, take a look at your data, and make sure that it is exactly the way you wanted it. You have from November 21st through December 4th to go in and correct that. Keep in mind that the only way you can correct your child count is to resubmit your November IC upload before December 4th. So if you go into the SPED data application and you're like, oops, we missed 3 students and I need to add them, you need to correct your November IC upload so that it can resubmit to the SPED data application. And then December 21st will be our deadline for the verification statement that will need to be submitted. And we will also be holding a webinar on child count on September 12th. Thank you.
Hi, it's Kelly, and I know a lot of you haven't seen me for a while because I've been retired, but I'm doing some consultant work for the state, and so I'm taking this ed plan piece. If we move to the next slide, over the past year, we have been looking at the accommodations in ed plan, and we've had a work group made up of the department folks, the assessment folks there in the department, district administrators, and so forth. And we're looking at the accommodations from a perspective of wanting to make sure that we're improving that delivery of accommodations to students, as well as helping the districts being able to report that information to the state when it comes to your testing reports. So our core goal for the work group was to ensure district teams could accurately, consistently, easily select and administer those accommodations and facilitate ease of accommodations reporting. Next slide, please. Out of that work that we've been spending over the past year, and that work has included a lot of discussion with districts, research, accessing information from other states, the Council on Special Ed Administrators, and so forth, we've come up with some recommendations. And those recommendations at this point look like standardizing the accommodation lists and shifting from the sort of generic titling or categorization that has been used for accommodations so far, such as presentation, timing, and so forth, and shifting more to a functional need categorization of accommodations. So looking at visual needs of the student, auditory, motor, cognitive, for example. And so what that's going to mean is shifting to those categorizations and ways of assessing a student's accommodation needs, as well as standardizing the accommodations based on the state assessment approved accommodation lists. So that's one of the recommendations. That would allow us to then tag accommodations in EdPlan, which will then facilitate you all being able to create very dynamic and useful reports out of EdPlan, not only for your TIDE uploads, but also for classroom use in knowing what accommodations students need. We'll also still be allowing and encouraging use of classroom-only accommodations, and we'll provide a text box area for those to capture those unique classroom-only accommodations. And then our fourth recommendation, obviously providing a lot of guidance and professional development around this. More to come, especially at the Federal Programs Conference. We'll really be digging into the specifics of these things. So love to get a lot more feedback from everyone on those topics. On behalf, if we move to the next slide, on behalf of the EdPlan team, which I'm no longer a part of, I am passing along the information in terms of how to contact them if you need assistance and support. This is the absolute best and quickest way to get their attention, either through that email, the phone, or if you're a Permission 1 group user, through Zendesk. As you note on the slide, anything that is student specific around student data must go through Zendesk. Cannot send that through email for personal identifiable information reasons. So there's some information on where to direct your request. Obviously, if you're not a Permission 1 group user, need help with password or login, you can just email them through the EdPlan support. Finally, next slide. EdPlan has lots and lots of training available for you all starting here very soon. The QR code is there for you to register for those trainings. They will all be recorded, but it's always great to attend when you can, because then you can get your specific questions answered during the trainings. But welcome back, administrator training, transfer process training, EdPlan basics and eligibility process, super critical for all of your new staff, and then the IEP process and EdPlan tools. So jump in and take advantage of those. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see so many people around today. Welcome to the new school year. Here's a reminder that special education dispute resolution is here for you. We're here offering processes to help you resolve disputes, avoid disputes, and move forward happily into your school year. Next slide, please. Thank you. As all of you know, special education is built around collaborative decision-making, but sometimes even when everyone's acting in good faith, things can go a little bit off the rails. So we encourage you to look into early dispute resolution before things get too hectic, address concerns early, preserve positive relationships. Most of you are aware that we offer facilitation at no charge to students, parents, or districts. So we want to remind you to request facilitation rather than waiting until a complaint has come to fruition. Mediation is also a great early dispute resolution process that we find can offer out-of-the-box solutions for problems or issues that might seem intractable. So if we go to the next slide, I'll show you where to find those resources. Go to the dispute resolution page at the website, and then next page, please. You'll see these drop downs. Facilitation, you can find request forms in a variety of languages. Also the parent guide, which is useful for parents, but a lot of times staff can benefit from reading a facilitation or mediation guide also. There's a video there. Each of these drop downs has links to the processes available to you. As always, we are sitting next to our phones just waiting for you to call so we can offer you some support. So please don't hesitate to reach out to Autumn, Maggie, or me at any time. And I think that that's what we've got there.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. The last slide will give you all the contact information for all of our staff. And our next session together for a webinar will be September 9th. Due to having a late Labor Day. So hope you guys are all having a great start to the year and enjoying having children back in your building. Or young adults, as that may be. Take care, and we'll see you next month.